Welcome back, everybody. And this is our second episode of Journaling Through Life Home Edition. We have a fantastic guest on the show today. Her name is Hilary Camilleri. She is a world-renowned photographer, journalist, which I read on your website the other day, a mom, an entrepreneur, and just a fantastic friend. Just one of those human beings that when you meet her, you're like, yeah, this person. This is an amazing person. So Hilary has been up to a really awesome project, which she is going to share with us tonight. So I'll leave it to you, Hilary, if you can explain to us what you're doing, how you came up with the idea, and how it felt to just put it out there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Christine, for having me here. During this time, actually, you're someone I've thought about a lot in your business because obviously you've been a client of mine behind my, in front of my camera. And I actually thought of you when I started this project for the simple reason that I believed that journaling, as important as it was before the pandemic, I actually believe it's become even more important since the pandemic to get thoughts out, whether it be, on paper or talk them out loud or talk them out to somebody. I think it's just really important to recognize that we need an outlet to think about these things and to kind of put them in front of us versus keeping them inside. So I did think of you because I do enjoy writing. Obviously, photography is the biggest love of my life, images. But writing is also something I've always really loved to do. And so when the government kind of shut things down a few weeks ago, just at the end, the beginning of March break there, and it was a Friday and I did my last session and I knew that was it. My camera went down and I just knew that I wouldn't be picking it back up. There was no debate in my head as to I could maybe do this shoot or that shoot. I just knew this was a greater this experience was going to be bigger than life itself, and my job at that point I knew was not going to be important on the grand scheme of things. So I, like many people, and didn't understand it, I guess, until I started reading articles online about the process of grief and all of this kind of thing, that you really start to think that's exactly what I'm going through right now is grief. And that first week for me was really hard. So it felt a little bit like a black hole. And so my camera went down, and then you kind of sit with yourself and say, what do I do? For a lot of entrepreneurs, their businesses are huge parts of their life. And what I've come to discover in the last few weeks, an even bigger part of your identity as a human being. And so it was just kind of sorting through, who I was outside of, an 11-year business, 400 photo shoots plus a year, and kind of, who am I outside of this, not producing kind of thing. So I knew that I needed to do something during this time. It was really important to me that I had something that I could just focus on, that, having really kind of nothing through the day, even though I know as a non-essential worker, that's kind of my job right now, right? You kind of have to take that on, that your job is to stay home, to keep people safe. So I understood that was part of my role. But just me, the type of person I am, feelings of needing to produce just were not going to go away overnight. So I thought, okay, I'm starting a project. So within probably a couple days of all of this unfolding, it was bubbling inside of me. So I really felt that something was going to come out. I wasn't sure exactly what it was. So I just sat with it for a few days and really thought, maybe this is a time to tap into my writing. And what could I do writing wise? And then I thought to myself, well, there needs to be photos. So it's kind of like, how can we tie this together, right? Because day after day, I'm sitting in my space and I'm thinking things. And people in general have thousands of thoughts a day. And I'm like, our thoughts just went like quadrupled overnight, right? Because life was void of, for many people, if they were, forced kind of out of employment, you're forced into your own self and your own thoughts. And so I thought that'd be an interesting concept to tie the two together, because I think people are thinking a lot more because they're on pause and they're in a space that they don't that you look at each day, but you're looking at differently because it's a space that you really know that you're not getting out of anytime soon, right? Can't change up the look of your space like you did a few weeks ago. So yeah, I love catchy names, and any sort of project I've put out over the last few years, I've come up with my names, and I just thought that's exactly what this is right now, is my four walls. And what am I thinking in these four walls? And I knew very quickly that I could sense that this pandemic would be the precursor to a lot of shifting in people's thoughts about their lives and their careers and where they're at. Things that we kind of feel and think in the back of our minds, but now they're forced to the forefront. So yes, I came up with my four walls, and my photo editor, who just like me is also in forced unemployment at the moment. So she's partnered with me on it, so that she does a lot of the behind the scenes work. So she did the graphics for it, and she does the posting and that kind of thing. And then, and then I help with curating of writing and gathering submissions and stuff like that. So, and obviously doing the media interviews and that kind of thing. So yeah, I really felt that it was important to put something out quickly, and something that I kind of figured it would resonate with people. Probably didn't think it would be as successful as it is and catch as many eyes as it has, but I really feel, initially I thought it would just be little snippets of thoughts. Like I was just thinking, small things. Even myself, the first few days I was like, okay, now that I'm living without all the things, maybe I can live without all the things. That was kind of my first thought. So I thought, okay, it'd be snippets like that. Well, it's become very much a Dear Diary. So the thoughts have been so deep and so honest and raw. And there just seems to be this sense of people kind of letting that guard down, whether they live here in Waterloo or if they live in Bangladesh or Italy or Spain or France or anywhere across the US. Very common feelings. And really, for the first time, I feel like in the time that I've been alive, that it's truly a collective experience.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is incredible. And to your point, where people are bringing their guards down, I think a part of that too is that we're always in control, or we feel like we're in control.
Mm-hmm.
And now we don't have control over nearly anything. Not that
Yeah.
we really had in the first place, but it really brings a whole shift and a pivot in a dynamic on how you deal with yourself and how you perceive the outside world, but also the content that you put out there. Like you said, even on social media, you can really see that there has been a shift from selfie this is amazing, to like what really matters, what is really important, because we have to face that, right? And what is a priority? And I know that you are such a creative mind, and for myself too, that's why I started this series. I'm like, you have to be on it, you have to get it done. And stories has always been so important to me, and I think that resonates with you too. Like the calendar that you make, it's bringing people's stories really to life in any way that you need to, and that it needs to, connect with other human beings. Now, when you first started this, what was the feeling that you got when you read it? And has there been a change? And if so, what is the feeling now? Because like you said, the stages of grief has, the frantic, the anger. So in your opinion, just reading what people are writing, where is sort of like the collective feel at the moment?
I feel as if the collective, I guess, overall feeling I'm getting is that, the anxiety initially was really there very strongly, and people really struggled up and down, that kind of thing. I do sense that people are really sifting through and finding the gratitude in this, the gratitude in the pause, the gratitude in how we view our world and what's important. And I mean important in that it's challenged some of my things too, when we think about, who we put in the limelight in the world, and who we put on pedestals, and who we look up to. And I think that's been, for me, one of the most beautiful lessons in all of this. And, we love our celebrity culture, and we love, all of those fun things, but I really don't think I'll ever look at someone who works in a grocery store or delivers pizzas, or not that I ever looked at them in any other way, but I think I have this new appreciation for the work that people do, because I believe I look around at who is truly holding our society up, and it is the people that drive taxis and deliver pizzas and make meals and, you know, work at a pharmacy at Shoppers Drug Mart and Walmart and grocery stores, and our healthcare workers. Because when push comes to shove, that's what's essential in this world. And so I think that's going to really change, I think, just even some of my own thinking and my own personal, I guess, way of how we view people and that kind of thing. So I do find that through this project, like I said, there was a lot of talk about anxiety. There still is. I think there's still lots of angst amongst people. I don't think that's gone away. You know, you kind of seen angst, I've seen grief, I've seen a lot of gratitude, that kind of thing. But I think as days go on, because now that we're in this project for a few weeks now, we're on day kind of like 38. Some countries are on day like 45, 47, 50 of isolation. I do sense a feeling of a little bit of acceptance now that this is kind of where we're at, and we just have to settle into it. No matter how uncomfortable it is, we have to settle in and just ride the waves with it. That, you know, it could be 1 hour that we feel energized to create or clean or, you know, think of things you want to do in your life. And then the next hour, someone's, you know, writes that they're on their bathroom floor or they're in their bed or they're in their closet, you know, just needing a bit of space to let the tears flow and just to kind of feel the feelings that come with something so large right now.
Absolutely. And journaling is, like you said in the beginning, and thanks for the shout out,
Yes.
absolutely one of those methods that you are able to just let the guard down, no judgment, just get it out.
Yeah.
Right. And while you were talking, I had a thought. So your the project, actually people take pictures
Yes.
either of what they're doing or where they're at.
Yeah.
And it just crossed my mind that in dream theory and symbolism, the house, if you dream about a house, is yourself. So if you
Right.
find a space that, you know, in your dream you've never been, it's an unexplored part of yourself, or like the kitchen,
Yeah.
or, you know, it all has these symbolic things. So to a certain extent, we're all coming back to ourselves by
Yeah.
staying in our physical homes as
Yeah.
well as our mental homes.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Right?
Absolutely.
And have you found, like, some of the houses, you know, you feel more connected to the people because they're not putting up that mask. They're not putting 7 filters on themselves. It's not,
No.
you know, this perfectly staged, like you say, celebrity look-alike
Yes.
type.
Yes. Yes,
It's
for
real,
sure. It's
right?
real. Yeah. It feels real. And it feels, I don't know, it just kind of, to me, feels a little bit getting back to the basics of humanity, minus all of the things that, you know, we've come to feel that we need or that we should idolize, that kind of thing. So it's kind of shifted that perspective. And I really feel that, you know, a lot of the projects I do, my common theme, I think, just in my life overall, is I really like to shine light on people that don't traditionally get light shone on them, or that they don't have a voice. And what I see even in this project, when I look at applying that kind of philosophy that I've put against all of my work, is that it is shining a light on true feelings. Because up until this point, you know, we have Bell Let's Talk Day, you know, we've got some mental health movements and that kind of thing. But when people would share, it would still feel extremely vulnerable. You'd still feel that sense, am I going to be judged for saying those things? And, you know, this is just my opinion during this time, but I've just found this, that for me, when I read things and I see the amount of sharing, and even within these posts that we're receiving, because we literally are receiving them from all over the world. We had one come in from Vietnam today, that the feelings are the same. And so it's not like, you know, someone across the world is like, I have no problems, this is great, whatever. There's a collective feeling of unease across the world. So I really feel like this has shone a light on people's, giving them permission to speak and say, this is how I really feel. And there just doesn't feel like there's the same kind of stigma around it as it did just even a few weeks ago on Bell Let's Talk, where it's like, oh, that person's struggling with this or that. Like, I've seen photos of people posting themselves with tears down their face and saying, you know, I'm struggling more than usual with my mental health, or I cried a lot today. And it's just so raw and honest. And I just feel, and then you look to see how people are responding to that. And it's so warm, saying, I have the same things and I'm here for you. And I feel the same things. I feel your pain, kind of thing. And at the same time, celebrating when something also feels good too. So I feel like that light has kind of been shone for me on this project, in the sense that, it started with a few people opening up, and then just people followed suit. And you read these submissions, and I feel like I'm inside someone's head for that 30 seconds that I'm reading these things, that how they're feeling about their space or their day or their lack of job, or feeling overwhelmed by family, or their lack of productivity, or whatever it may be. I feel like I'm just kind of for a split second kind of inside their mind for that moment, and can pretty much relate to something everyone says in every single post, no matter where they come from.
That is so incredible. And it's so true. And you made a very good point to say that now people have permission, because I also think there's so many people that do carry these burdens with them and these challenges, and it's just push it to the side, like every person for himself. And like you even said, the people who don't have a voice, it seemed, and not to get political in any way, shape, or form, but the divide always gets bigger and bigger, right?
Yes,
When you cannot find that common humanity. And I
that's
think
right.
that is definitely, like you said, back to the basics, finding that common denominator, right? We are all in this together.
Yeah.
Right?
And we're all at different stages, and we're all in, everyone has different socioeconomic challenges, and, all of those kind of things. But I think what everyone can relate to is the base feelings of it. So whether or not you are, in the higher socioeconomic status or a lower one, we all know what fear feels like. We all know what sadness feels like, loss feels like. We all can feel gratitude for things, no matter who we are, what culture we're from, no matter how much money we have. There are still base human feelings that cross, all boundaries between everybody.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when the people submit their entries to you, do you find now too that the gratitude ones, sort of shift the energy of the page too, where it's like, oh, right, I should remember to be grateful as well. It tends to have that effect, right? It's like we're all in this together, but we're also all
Yeah.
grateful together. And it's
Yeah.
sort of like removing the whole sphere versus just one
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. I definitely find that, some people will start off writing about kind of how it's pulling them down, and then they're finding the gratitude in it. So they're pulling themselves, trying to shift that thought. Some people, it just all feels heavy that day. Some people, it all feels light. So it really does probably depend on the individual person on the day they write, because I've done a couple of submissions myself, and depending on how my week has gone, depending on how I feel, those thoughts can shift too. So yeah, it definitely has some rhythms amongst a lot of the posts, but I think there's just this acceptance that people are just writing what feels right to them, and there really is no right or wrong in terms of, the pressure to all feel gratitude because we should find gratitude in this, or that, it's just whatever to me is what you're feeling in the moment. And I've said that to a few people that want to submit and said, I don't know what to say. And I just said, whatever you feel is just right. It's just right, whatever you're feeling. And so, and I've had so many private messages on the project. And even though, we're not getting, I'd say the Facebook group has a lot more commenting in general. The Instagram page does not, but that is not indicative of the interaction on that page at all. And I know this because I get a lot of private messages from people who are reading this before they go to bed at night. They're checking it through the day. And some people have said to me, it's been hard for them to read some of it because that, feeling the fear from other people or whatever it may be, that they, or that they've sat with a lot of the thoughts themselves. So people are reading it and they're processing it. So it's not something that necessarily they're physically writing online about things, but it is definitely something that people are processing behind the scenes when they see the photos and they see the write-up.
Absolutely. And that's a valid point to say that there is going to be an ebb and flow, like loss and grief, like any trauma that you have. And even personally for me, how I've been managing my family too is, in the beginning, it was extremely intense. So we made a point to say that if it's very intense in the beginning, we are going to feel like this again. But
Yes.
if it was 100% intense, let's aim for 80. Let's
Yeah.
aim for 60. Let's have that sort of upwards thing, because we've been here before. And
Right.
then I also mentioned, this is not the first time in our lives that we have had a traumatic event. Every person in their life has experienced loss. Even
Yes.
something as simple as going to school is
Yeah.
losing staying at
Yeah.
home,
Or
losing your tooth, right?
losing a pet. Yeah. A tooth. Yeah. You
You
name
know?
it. Yes.
Yeah, it
That's
doesn't
what
even have
as
to be
well.
like that
Yes.
significant death.
Yes.
It can be a loss in
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
So
Our brain
that is
registers all loss, no matter what that is. Yes.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. And to be, in order to pull from our past experiences. And I think it is important, like you say, how some people feel heavy reading it. It's also important to be mindful of not your page specifically, but how much energy we spend on the news and the
Yeah.
information we get in, to make sure that we practice the good boundaries and the self-care,
Yeah.
so that our energy stays with us so that we can
Yes.
handle it, right? Versus always being
Yeah.
outside. And I
It's
think,
very true.
right?
And what I do enjoy about the page is the fact that it is real people. It is not, it's everyday people across our globe. And I see people posting their spaces and thoughts all the time on Instagram. But what more My.Four.Walls is basically just kind of bringing that together in one house, right? Just saying, okay, what is kind of a little, look into everyone's houses across the world look like? And because it is everyday average people, we have essential workers, non-essential workers, we've had a doctor, we've had a nurse, so it's not a media driven project that is painting things one way or the other. It's just a simple, what are your thoughts, what is your space right now, kind of thing. So that's why it feels, it feels balanced, and it feels very real.
And I love that. I love that, because it can sway so much to one side or the other. And really,
Yeah.
like you say, and I feel sometimes too, you mentioned it before, that if you don't feel happy or thankful for everything every day, then you start feeling guilty because you don't feel
Yeah.
happy. And, then it's just a whole different mental ball game that you're
Yes.
dealing with, right? Now,
Absolutely.
when this project is, because it is going to end, at least we know
Yeah.
that. We're not sure when this is going to
Yeah.
end, but it will end. So what is
Yeah.
like sort of the end goal for the project? Will it be like submitted into, because a lot of people I know, I think I actually sent you a couple of links to, of historical societies that would
Yeah.
like people's input. Is there
Yeah.
sort of an exit strategy for
Yeah.
exit
I
strategy?
really, when I think about my projects, and especially this one, I really felt that it had the ability to be something that could become a piece of history for down the road. And so, because I look at its appeal, it's got a huge universal appeal. It's got, participants from all over the world. It was obviously kind of born here in KW, and we've got lots of local people that are onto the project. I think, in terms of the plans for next few weeks, I am very aware that this project has a timeline, because there will be a time when we'll open things back up. But I love the fact that these thoughts are frozen now, that they are there, and that people can touch them again and be like, oh, that's what I felt. And that was that space. And I'm even really feeling that when I'm starting to think about the other side, because I always tell myself, like I'm always saying, I'm focusing on the other side, because there will be an other side to this at some point. And I already am having some thoughts where I'm super connected to space in the house that I know I will look at and say, I spent some time in there, and this is where my tears fell, and that kind of thing, that will be very, raw for me, just as I know everyone will have those similar things. So for me, this really I would like this to become something that is kind of frozen in time, that can be look at it years down the road and kind of do a look back on it. There's a few more media things coming with the project. It definitely has not run its course that way. We've got a few things in the works, but my ultimate goal for the project always has been to have it published. And so I think it would make an absolutely beautiful book, something that, you can put on your coffee table or in your library, and just have this kind of piece of history there with just, again, little glimpses from people all over the world during a very extraordinary time in our lives.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that reflective value of journaling, it is so important to see how far you've come, how strong you really are,
Yes.
the insights that you have, especially in times of trouble. Well,
Yeah.
that sounds fantastic. I cannot wait to see, where this keeps going. We
Yeah.
obviously follow
Yeah.
you.
There's
So
plans. There's plans. That's for sure. There's interest. There's interest.
oh, that's fantastic. That is amazing. And on a final note, Hilary, have you seen any of the empty spaces just as a photographer? What are your thoughts having, been over the world and photographing and seeing these empty streets just from your, creative photography mind? What's your feeling on that?
Like I see the pictures online,
Yeah,
obviously they're, because I can't be in any of these places. And it is very eerie, right? Just to see the world so still. It's very, I feel like the only other time I really related to such a stillness was 9/11. That was another time that really resonated with me, where the, kind of, America and Canada stood still. The world stood still after that feeling of standing still. Um, but yeah, like I have not been out in KW very much at all. I truly haven't. Like I can count on one hand how many
no
times I've
kidding.
actually kind of left the house other than walking the streets in my neighborhood. So I don't really have a good gauge on, kind of the emptiness of our own city, because I'm kind of in my own four walls, right? Because it's just a very different time right now. And if I do, venture out, which isn't often, I am kind of looking around for, you're drawn to things like playgrounds, and that's where my eyes tend to go, is kind of those spaces that are empty versus like sidewalks and stores. Cause you still see people in those places, right? But things like playgrounds and places you just normally, bus stops, buses are empty or that kind of thing. I think what gets me more than anything too is just the masks, right? Seeing our bus drivers with masks on and people in cars with masks and in stores. I think that for me is a little bit more the stillness. I don't, the stillness I feel, but it's more just kind of how we look in terms of gloves and masks. And when you walk, you cross the street from people, there's a little less eye contact, that kind of thing. So I think those kind of things, I think, make it a little more just real, I guess, when I do go out.
Right. And thank you for sharing that, especially because in your industry, being a photographer, it's all about the eye contact, it's the
Oh yeah.
engagement, it's like I'm sure people are going to sign up in hordes to get their pictures taken after this too. Like, this is
Yeah, I'm actually, it's, for the first little while, obviously my business came to a halt. And like I said to you before, it's not that I didn't recognize it before. I think it's a little more in my face how much my career is a part of really who I am as a human being and how I function from day to day, producing and connecting with people. It's just a really big part of who I am. But I think that I was surprised at how many people have reached out during this time to book headshots and to book family sessions, saying like, as soon as you're open, we're there. Like we need this done. We need that done. Can you do, even though there's going to be no graduations, can you still photograph my daughter in her grad dress? Like, it's just a really beautiful thing to know, when I get those messages, I'm like, oh, people are still going to need their photos. Like they're really important to people, just from a memories, and it's not something people are going to necessarily do without anytime soon. So I think that also kind of, this project and those messages I get every day really keep me going, know that yes, on the other side, there's going to be a lot more photo memories and a lot more connection going on. And I'll go into that with a whole different, level of gratitude for my career and people. And so, it definitely is not, I said I've done some writing over the last little while and journaling. And I did write a piece that just said it's out of other people's pain and suffering that I am able to take this time to grow. So I do recognize that there are people that have suffered great loss, people that have been in a lot of pain, have been very sick. But that, out of that, I know the gratitude is that it gave all of us the opportunity, the earth to settle down, our minds to settle down to some extent. They're not settled for other reasons, but just to really kind of evaluate what's in each of our lives, what we want to accept back in after this is done, and kind of how we prioritize people in our culture and in our world. And yeah, so it's been a very interesting pause, that's for sure.
That's amazing. That's a very strong message. Thank you, Hilary. That's incredible. And it is important to look to the future. We did a blog post on that to say, because, and I'll backtrack just a little bit. When you said is space in your house, you're going to remember that this is where you cried. So I was painting my bathroom a new color, and I was listening to the audiobook, The Tattooist of Auschwitz. And every
Ah,
time I turn on that light, I'm like, that's the section I painted when I, was listening.
yes.
So it's incredible that
Yeah.
visual,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
stories is what keeps us going,
Yeah.
right? The
Our
story.
mind, our brains latch on to those experiences so hard, whether it be through visuals or words or music, and it will get into our brain wiring, and it will marry us to those memories forever. Yeah.
It would. And that is why your project is so amazing and so incredible. And thank you for putting journaling on the map. It's fantastic.
Oh, of course. It's honestly, it's one of the first things I thought about. I'm like, this is the time where it's, get it out on paper, a little diary, or just snippets of thoughts, make lists. I have lists of the things I want to do afterwards. And I really, now my little mantra in my head is there's no more when, it's now. Because before this was like, well, when this happens, I'll do this. Well, when this happens, I'll do that. I'm as guilty as everyone else of saying that, oh, we can do that this time, or when these things happen, we can do this. This has just put it right in front of my face that there is no when, there's just now. Because everything, we were planning, and everyone in their own lives, whether it be, some sense of change that they were having in their lives, or plans or whatever, those like you said, there's no control. There's no control. Those things can be taken away so fast. So I think that's, I've definitely journaled a lot of those thoughts out, and maybe it'll help inspire me to get moving on a few other things in my life too.
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for joining us today,
Well, thank
Hilary.
you for
What
having
a
me.
wonderful message. And if you would like to take a few minutes, tell the people where they can find it. We're going to post all of the links and all of the where you can find Hilary, her work, how to post your own, how to join
Yes.
My.Four.Walls.
Yeah.
But if there's anything else, that you want to add, go ahead.
Okay, so we have two places you can join us. You can join us on Facebook. So you just have to search My.Four.Walls and you'll find us there. And then on Instagram, we're at my.4.walls. And so to submit, you can submit on Facebook, or you can direct message the actual Instagram account itself, and you send your photo and the text message of what your thoughts are, and then your name, your Instagram handle, the day number you're in isolation, and your city. And then we typically have 2 to 3 days worth of material at any given time. So we work at least 2 to 3 days ahead, which has been really great. We've got lots of material. We're definitely never scrambling for submissions from the day it started. They just trickle in every day, all day. And we've got a good couple, 2 to 3 days banked up every few days. So yeah, so those are the two ways that you can submit. And obviously we encourage voices of all ages. And because we have, I think, ages 9 to 70 is kind of the age range of people who have submitted on the page, which is really nice. And obviously we welcome anyone from any country in the world.
That's amazing. Now, can I submit 2 entries, or is it sort of
Yes.
limited?
No, we have some people that have, said, hey, I've got another space I want to talk about. I've got another set of thoughts I want to talk about. And so absolutely, we welcome a second or third submission. We'll post them.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Hilary.
Thank
This
you for
has been
having me.
amazing. And we will chat real soon. And we will also book a photo session when we get
Excellent.
back to
Thank you. Thank you. My day's made. Thank you so
Excellent.
much.
You're welcome. Take
Okay.
care.
Take care.
To find out how you can submit your story, please visit My.Four.Walls on Facebook and Instagram. The links are in the description. While you're at it, sign up for Journaling Through Life, a digital platform with journaling challenges, premium journals, and a section to create your own personal journal. Keep journaling and keep growing.